Just taking a look at this, I was just filming it then so people can have a reference, but it always looks suspicious when you see a spring like that as well. Someone's obviously tried to tighten it up to keep the throttle going a bit more, which really won't have much effect at all. So I'll just take all this off here. One other thing worth mentioning as well, which really is something to avoid, is if you see these SP454 engines, it actually has a recoil with this petrol tank built into the back of this recoil here. Don't buy it, because 9 times out of 10 the petrol tank is split. These are the slightly, I think, modified versions where the petrol tank comes separate, so at least if there's a problem you can replace the tank quite easily. But yeah, just to repeat myself, I'm not sure what I've just said, is it's an age thing. Don't buy the one with the recoil with the tank built on the back of it. It'll probably leak and you wonder where all your petrol's gone to, and if you want a replacement part, they're very, very difficult to get hold of. You probably have to buy a conversion kit which converts it to this. I actually do have a video on my channel showing how to do that conversion somewhere. I'll try and link to that video below this one for anyone who's looking to do that. So just a few thoughts while I'm here. So the easiest way to get this off is, you see the fuel line that's under here? Sometimes I just clamp that. I use a clamp, and I shouldn't really use mole grips, but even a pair of mole grips will stop the fuel coming through. And we're just going to undo these two bolts that run right through here. This is the problem, you see. They run right through the air filter, right through the carburetor, and into the back of here. You see here? So you've got to get it all through and not get all these linkages in just to service the carburetor. I have actually tried a couple of times just taking everything off from the bottom of the under where the ball is, but I can't do that either, which is why it really isn't one of my favourite type of mowers to do. So I'm going to clamp this fuel line. I'm going to take these two out of here, pull it all back, and let's try and get this carburetor off. So I've backed these two long bolts out here, and there's actually a connecting one here that just holds it on at the front. It doesn't really do anything apart from hold the air filter box on, so I'll just back that one out as well. But as you can see already, it starts to come away and you can actually get to this carburetor. So before I take this off, I'll just film it. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to release this fuel line. Sometimes I just get something like this and put it in the end of the fuel line, stop it coming out. Saves wasting any good fuel I've got in there, although it wasn't much, there'll still be some in there. It's just a bit of a cleaner way of doing it. As you can see here, there's actually like where are we going here? There's actually like a seal ring on the back of there, and everything just comes off really loose. But of course you've got all these connectors, and once you can't remember where they go, basically you might as well say bye to your lawnmower. So I'm going to pull this fuel line off and block it off with that, and I'm going to pull this carburetor off. So all I'm looking to do is unhook this linkage here, which just pops out on its own, and this linkage here, which hooks round a bit, and that should take us away, take us from the carburetor and unhook the fuel line, and you will have the carburetor off this mower. So that's basically my fuel line, which I'll pop up there with that, and the end that keeps that out of the way. You can see that linkage just come out there. This is why it's so fiddly. I much prefer the other ones. Had I been done by now, I could have replaced the diaphragm and gasket by now. And we'll try and unhook this. You can see it's a little bit fiddly for me with the camera, so I'll just put that down. Basically this one at the back just unhooks. So I've now got this carburetor off this machine, left as many linkages on as I can. I've got one stuck in the top of the carburetor. I've got a video to refer back to. If you haven't got a video camera, of course, take a photograph. Easy to take one on your phone nowadays, or just believe me, you'll be glad you did if you can't remember where it goes. So I've got this carburetor out now. I can clean this off, and I can take it out from the bottom, take the needle out and service this up and put it back together. And I'd like to say this machine will run great, this mower will just tick over and everything will be fine, but I'm not convinced it will, because these are a little bit fiddly, these ones. But we'll try that first of all. I'm going to service this carburetor. So I've got everything out the way. As I said, I've got my fuel line. I've put these little parts on here. They're off the recoil back off. All the bits off the air filter box I've just put back in where they go, so nothing's getting lost. I'm going to have to leave it there tonight because I've got to go out. But I'm ready when I get back to service this carburetor, and then I will refilm and see what it runs like. So I've just taken this carburetor in the garage and I've just cleaned it off with the compressor on the outside before I take it apart, which is always a good idea. And I think I found the problem with this mower. You can see in here, the needle here at the end of my fingertip there, for anybody who's new to these videos, that should move up and down. This float ball, I've actually got this carburetor upside down at the minute, I'm not really sure why, but this float ball moves up and down, and as it moves up and down it lets some fuel in. You can see the needle's just started to move there. It was actually sticking before, and I was looking at it before, it was actually totally sticking, even with it the right way around. This needle was totally sticking in here, and that's normally a sign of stale fuel. When this needle sticks, basically it's not going to allow any fuel through, which is what we have with the starvation problem. So I'm just going to take this carburetor to pieces. It's really simple to do on these. Just pull this pin out, take the float off, take this needle out, and if you get an Allen key you can poke it down the back of here and it'll just pop this this jet out at the bottom of here, which I'll do now. And I'll just basically give this a real good clean up with not with heavy duty adhesive, which is very similar to this, with carb spray, and I'll blow it all out with a carburetor. I just wanted to show you that if the needle isn't moving up and down or isn't seating properly, you'll get a blockage with fuel. Of course this mower won't run. If you get an Allen key and actually pop this in here, you can actually poke this in. I can't do it with one hand, but if you actually poke it in here, you can push down from the top and you'll actually pull this jet out of here. So on this mower, it's actually there's actually two different types. Sometimes you can poke them in the top and push it out. This one's actually got a slit in it for a flat-headed screwdriver, so I can simply unscrew this one. If you can't unscrew it, just put an Allen key in the top and poke it down from the top and it'll pop out the bottom of here. It's important that you get everything out of this carburetor that you can before you start cleaning it out. Any tiny little blockage in here and you won't get the correct amount of fuel, and this machine won't work properly. So this is the main jet that I've just taken out. I've just unscrewed this. You see the tiny hole in the centre of there, you need to make sure that's completely clean, which I will spray with carb spray and blow out as well. It looks quite small to me, that, but maybe just gunked up a bit. I'm not sure if I can just... It's very difficult to film, but if I look at the other side of this, is actually where it comes out the back. It is kind of gunked up on the back. It's not really possible to film it, I don't think. Let's just have a look. See how I'm not brilliant with this camera. I can't even find it. Oh yeah. Let's see what we can do. You see that around the back of there, you can actually see it's just starting to gunk up. It ain't too bad, but that's the sort of thing, once it fills that hole in, will stop you getting fuel in. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to spray this up with carb spray, and I'm going to blow this out with a compressor. Now you might be thinking, well, what happens if I haven't got a compressor? I don't want to spend hundreds of pounds. Basically you can get a can that looks like this, and it's called air duster. And it comes with a little spray thing that you get on the end of here, like a hose, a pipe, whatever you want to call it. And you can actually put that in all these holes, and it will do a good enough job to blow all this out of here and make sure there's no dirt in it and things like that. So give it a good soak in carb spray, and if you haven't got a compressor, get yourself a can of air duster, and you can blow the carburetors out with that. So it doesn't need to be an expensive thing. You don't need to have great bits of kit, as I've said in loads of other videos. You really only need a basic toolkit to do repairs like this. So I'm just going to spray this up and I'm going to blow it out and then put it back together when it's completely dry, and we'll try this back on the mower. Just get some of this in all the holes right the way around it. Get a good amount in, make sure it's all nice and clean. This just takes off, what this does is it just takes off any stale fuel. It's just sort of hanging around. Just getting every little bit you can and cleaning it out as well as you possibly can, including all these little jets and anything else that comes off it. Well, if you can just see the hole in there, there's actually more daylight coming through that now. It does look slightly larger than it did before, so something to really keep an eye on. Of course, if that's blocked, it won't work, will it? So I'm gonna. This is just drying off now. I'm just gonna give it sort of 10 minutes to finish drying off. Put everything back together. I've sprayed everything up, including this needle. I've given the bowl a bit of a spray. I took the gasket off as I didn't need to spray that up. So everything's had the chance to have all this stale, dried on fuel on, if you like. I think it's just been sat a while, this mower, if I'm honest. Probably bought it. I think he said he'd had it a year and a half. So I might have only filled it up a couple of times. It's probably just got the same fuel in from 2 years ago. And the problem with this type of mower on these SV454 engines is that there's no quick way of taking this carburetor off, as I've just shown. On the other style, you could just whip it off and clean it out quick and put it back. But people without this knowledge that I'm trying to share with you on these videos, obviously they're not going to go into this detail of doing it. Now, I'm showing every little bit of how to do it, but actually it's probably no more than a sort of 20-minute job really, once you've done it a few times, just to take this off and put it back together. And if this works, all I've got to do is clean this machine up, and I can service it if I want, and I'm ready to sell it. So for somewhere in my local area, I could sort of be less than 2 hours to go and pick it up, come back, repair it, and I can have it for sale somewhere. So I'll put this back together, and I'll just make sure this needle's moving nicely in this carburetor. You can see here this needle's moving nicely. You can see it in the centre of here, just moving up and down. It's not sticking at all. So when it calls for fuel, when this gets low down, when this float drops down, it calls for fuel and it lifts up. It's actually letting some through. It's actually got enough to get to the spark plug and give us enough fuel to keep this mower going rather than it stalling all the time. So I'm happy that's okay. I'm going to put this jet back in the bottom of here and screw it back in. And that's all there is to it really. Just remembering where the linkages is really the tricky bit of putting this back together. Here's a quick tip for you, something I've learned through doing this a few times. If you can remember where the fuel line came out, it came out of this side. So what you want to make sure when you're putting the bowl back on is that you want to make sure that you can get to the access these two bolts at the bottom. You don't want to be putting it on sort of that way around and tightening it up. When you come to get in, you won't be able to get in to drain any fuel out. You want to make sure it goes back on the same way it came off, which is with this part here facing the front of the mower. So try and remember that, because once you get it on the machine you can't really spin it round. So it's much easier to do it now.